Okay, so I guess my next question is we're going to go into the optics of the martial arts industry, and we're going to talk about. And when I say optics, what I mean is how it looks to the public, not how it looks to you and me.
Right.
But like when a person sees martial arts for the first time, and now today they could see it on Facebook, they can see it on YouTube, they could see it in person, in a movie, whatever. Right? There's so many ways to actually see martial arts now. So my question is, one, do you think that the optics of martial arts are not helping people get involved? Because now they can see so much, whereas let's say in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and so on, there was no way to actually see this stuff. You actually had to go to a school and see what it looked like. Okay, well, what is Kung Fu, Well, go to a Kung Fu school and look. They don't have to do that today.
Right.
They can go on YouTube and see. So do you think that maybe the optics might be a problem as to why maybe more people aren't getting involved?
Again, I mean, I have to go back to the idea that it's a double-edged sword.
Okay.
That one, it can be a useful tool, but B, yes, it can be very, very distracting, because you can get information overload or information anxiety.
Yeah.
Where you spend so much time looking up so much material.
Right.
And again, it's the thing with social media sites, and it's got nothing to do with social media itself. That's exactly what it's about. Put as much as you can out there. It doesn't matter for some people. For some, it's what metrics do they choose.
Right.
For some people, yes, the quality matters. For a lot of people, it's just keep putting the shit out there.
Right.
Because, is that it? Is that it? Is that it?
Yeah.
That people start looking at it.
Right.
And then, quite honestly, people look and we're back to the same. If it's not done well, then what do you expect?
Right.
People think, oh, well, that looks like shit. Or what's the big one? Oh, that's never going to work.
Right.
Like, that won't work in a real fight.
Yeah.
Or things of that nature. And so it's not just a straightforward thing. The entertainment industry has put forth a lot of stuff. Some of it good, some of it not good. But that's the nature of that business.
Yeah.
Again, cinema is a marriage of art and business done right. Sometimes it's pure business, but it's that marriage of art and commercialism.
Yeah.
So they're putting forth an idea.
Right.
And the public sees that.
Right.
And they take it in. And maybe it's video games and they see that and they take it in.
Mm-hmm.
So you can almost get information overload on it.
I believe it because we've been experiencing that ourselves as we've been traveling, that information overload, and we're like, wow, we got to take a moment, we got to step back and kind of decompress, so to speak. But so I definitely agree with you there. But my next question is, going off of another optics is the way that maybe it looks with uniforms, like we have the traditional gi, we have the belts, right? And if you look at every other profession in the world, or even let's just keep it in the United States, okay?
Right.
Let's just say right here in the States, you look at every other profession, everything from a mechanic to a doctor to a lawyer to people in the restaurant industry, whatever. Mm-hmm. Their uniforms have changed, but yet the martial arts world, the dominant optics for the uniform is the gi. The gi is still standing, and sometimes I don't know what to think of that because I know that there was a time that I thought it looked really ridiculous, and I didn't want to wear it. And of course, then I started getting involved in martial arts, and it took time. And then I'm like, okay, I'm wearing this because I have to, and two, because there is some function to it, and I get that.
Right.
But do you think that maybe the fact that uniform just has not changed and we're still wearing it, do you think that might be driving people away and not wanting to get involved because it makes them feel silly to have to wear that?
Again, I think that those people who feel that way probably will not go into that art.
Okay.
But you're right on the thing is that everything in sports has changed.
Yeah.
The football uniforms, American football uniforms,
drastically changed. Yeah.
Drastically changed.
Right.
The technology has changed. The equipment has changed. You can track that back in any sport.
Right.
Right. and that's brought about changes. So, I mean, you can track it back in Century martial arts, for example. I think they were probably one of the first companies that started making changes to, so instead of the gi, because they actually had flares and they had stripes and they had, a tie front.
They started changing the way it looks.
And I think that made some changes.
Okay.
But then there's a lot of people that looked at that and goes, well, that's not traditional.
Right.
But that's the way the public's been trained.
That's
like we said, imagine that karate had been invented in California during the gold rush.
Right.
We'd all be dressing like they dressed there.
Yeah, and I do often ask that question. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm like, what if karate was developed in a completely different country during a completely different time? Would you want to dress like that?
Yeah.
And people say no. And I'm like, well, then why do you, and I ask people in the martial arts industry, and they don't like it when you challenge, the gi and the belt because they find it's the sacred cow, And I'm like, well, I'm only asking the question of, do you think it's a good idea to maybe drop it? Because one, we don't need it. We don't dress like that. I mean, if you're in Florida, you're not going to be wearing something like that. You're trying to walk around. You might wear something like that, I guess, if you're in a very northern state. But even then, once again, that's not our general attire. And you're telling people that that's what they have to wear in order to be part of what you do. And I'm thinking, well, that's not making it about the student. That's making it about you and what you're doing. And so that's kind of the reason why I bring that up.
Well, for example, you look at Savat, Savat.
Yeah.
They have not a uniform per se, but because you can train in whatever you want when you're training. But when you go to test or when you go into the ring, they have a one-piece. What do you call it? A unitard.
Unitard. Yep.
Yeah, that they wear. It's like a tank top, whatever.
Yeah.
The whole thing, but it's designed for complete freedom of movement.
Right.
And that's it. And then, they get really elaborate with the colors and the designs. It's like lightning bolts and whatever. But they have their training attire, which can be anything.
Right.
And then that is for the ring or for competition or for testing and things like that. So their uniform is different than that.
Right.
That's because that came from Asia. And that was the clothes that they wore, which I said, if it was designed in California, right? Or during the gold rush. That is the kimono is what everybody wore.
Right.
Back then.
Yeah.
Men, women, and you wore it everywhere.
Right.
Right? So there became your street kimono and then your training kimono, the gi, whatever you want to call it. The Brazilians still call it a kimono.
Okay.
So they'll get your kimono on or stuff like that.
Right.
So that has remained, but that's what they wore back then. So like you said, well, what year is it?
Yeah.
Well, in 2019, did we walk around barefoot?
Right.
And in this outfit all the time?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So then why is it necessary? You will get guys or you will get answers from different people under the guise of the industry.
Right.
Because it makes everyone feel like they're part of something.
That's right. Yeah.
Another way was, because they'll tell you, well, that way you won't have somebody who maybe doesn't have a lot of money, has to wear kind of older, raggedy clothes, and this person comes in their Air Jordans and their whatever.
Yeah.
So they'll give you different answers.
Right.
For whatever supports their agenda.
I see.
In my eyes.
So basically, it sounds like, at least from your perspective, that the uniform is there for a lot of reasons, we know, but for the most part, it's there to fit some kind of agenda.
Yeah,
now, whether that agenda be for sales or for their own optics, for their own school uniform or whatever, is that it definitely serves a purpose, and that purpose has to do with whatever their agenda is. Yeah. And I can only speak from my experience from traveling the country so far, and it just seems like that agenda isn't really about, with the exception of a few schools. I'm not going to say that it's everybody, but with the exception of a few schools, it just seems like it's really there to create conformity, and it's really there to create a kind of, I guess, like I said, the best word is conformity. Yeah. And it's like, well, is that a good idea or a bad idea? And like you said, is it necessary?
Sure.
And of course, my personal opinion is it's completely unnecessary. We don't,
right.
because, today in 2019, we're wearing dry fit shirts. We're not,
right.
or we're wearing, if you live in a northern climate, we wear much different clothing too. But in nowhere do we wear a full cotton, thick cotton gi like that. So, I guess my thing is I really want martial arts, especially continue to do what they do, but catch up.
Exactly.
Bring what you do from that time period to today.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure more people would get involved because you're telling them that we are here for you. We don't want you to come back 200 years to us.
Right.
We'll come up here to you. And so I definitely, that's
you
kind
want
of
you want the heritage, you want the heritage, you want that. You just don't want all the dogma that goes.
That's right. The dogma.
It.
That's the word.
And that's a big thing. Well, in order to do this, you got to do that. It had military background too. People can argue whatever they want.
Right.
But, the war arts were about war.
Right.
A lot of the stuff.
Right.
So by that token too, you've got all of your soldiers all in the same uniform.
Right.
But martial arts for the longest time was about conformity. Little sausage factories, we used to call it, where everybody goes in different, right?
But then they come out the same. That's right.
The same little sausages.
That's right.
And even in one of those interviews, those audio interviews, Bruce mentions that about the fact of, one of the things with styles is that regardless of how you are built, what your physical attributes are,
right?
What your nature is, you go in and you become that style.
I see.
And that's wrong. I don't know about you, but like I did class, and in one of the arts, everybody's head in the traditional position, the instructor had to look straight down the line, and everybody's head had to be the same height.
Yeah.
Okay, but now this person's 5'5" and this person's 6'5". So this person who's 6'5", their freaking legs are like way out here.
I was going to say that's a long way to go.
Yeah, because it was based on the instructor's head height.
Ah.
No, you got to be the same height as me.
Right.
Yeah.
And once again, and that's why I mentioned that a lot of these schools are still making it about them. Yeah. They're still making it about their agendas, what they their needs and wants, and the last 10% is about the student, is about the true needs and the true needs for the student.
Right.
And so I'm really glad that you bring that up because it just further confirms that is an issue. If we're talking, there's a lot of people that have been very successful at their martial arts schools, and they don't make it about the student. They make it about their tradition. They make it about their agendas. They make it about their business. That and then the student is like in the last seat. And so I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I just don't. I don't see why that's something that can't be changed on. Because I've always thought that martial arts, it's always about the student.
Sure.
Because it's the passing of knowledge and information to the student. But
well, you're moving from, again, we're back to, one is the perpetuation of a style and the other is the cultivation of the individual.
Right.
And they're very, very different.
Yeah.
So many are, it's all about, and JKD has even fallen into that in some avenues.
Sure. Sure.
Where it has become more about the perpetuation of the style.
Right.
So their thing is the uniform, the patches, the belt, everything that identifies you as that.
Right.
Versus, what about you?
Right.
We're back to that. Like we said, it's about you, what you can do.
Right.
Not what technique you can do if the person does this or this or this. What you can do.
Right.
You are it.
Yeah.
In Dan's backyard, he used to have a thing of curtains. Okay. Or this little curtain back there, and underneath it was a little plaque thing, and it said "The Secret of Jeet Kune Do." And you'd slide it back, and it was a mirror. And that was the whole point.
Right.
You are it.
Right.
There are no secrets.
Yeah.
So you are it. So is what you are doing as a teacher. And I have to be cautious of that. I'm not saying, nobody's guilt-free. I have to be very cautious of, because it can be easy to fall into that.
Right.
Are you are you going back to that perpetuation of a style, or are you going on the cultivation
of the individual,
the personal cultivation of the individual?
Right. And I can see after having a few businesses, I can see how that is essentially a threat to a lot of these traditional businesses, because they're like, well, man, if we just start creating a bunch of free-thinking, free-going martial artists that are going to do whatever they want, that's kind of a threat to the way we do things. And so I can see how that's an issue and all that. But obviously, I'm more of a proponent of the side of creating the individual, and I can see how a lot of businesses are not, because they're like, well, if we do that, that's not something we can control, and that's not good for sustainability for a business.
Right.
You know? And so I definitely see that. And
because if they have to rely on themselves, part of it's that, and part of it is because it makes your job a damn lot harder.
Right.
Because you better make sure you're doing it well.
Yeah.
Because if it's all about you, you got to come to me for the answers.
That's right.
To me for
That's
this.
right. So there's a dependency there.
There's a dependency.
Yeah.
But if you're developing those people, no, you got to think for yourself. You got to find the answers.
Right.
Then you better have your shit together and be able to do it well.
Right.
I think John had one of the best analogies between JKD, and I don't know if it's in the book or when he came and gave a talk here. I'm not sure what it was, but he related, it goes, the difference between most arts, or so many, and going to talk about the cult of this person, of that person, they become the guru.
Okay.
And then the underlings support the guru.
Yeah.
They pay him, they pay his rent, they pay for his jet,
right,
to fuel up and fly around,
right?
They're dependent upon him.
Right.
Myself as a Jeet Kune Do instructor, I am more like an optometrist.
Okay.
My job is to get you to see clearly. So I look to you, and we test you, and then we say, okay, so what helps you see clearly, this type of lens or that type of lens?
Right.
But my job as an optometrist is to cure you of your dependency on me, not develop it.
Right.
And that's oftentimes the reverse of a lot of martial arts. Again,
right.
my job is to get you ready to leave the nest, and then I got to kick your ass out of the nest.
Right.
And hope you fly.
Right.
At a particular time.
Not
keep you in the nest as long as possible.
Right.
When I left Dan, part of the whole thing was I knew it was time because it began to feel claustrophobic.
Okay.
That I couldn't do that, anymore.
Right.
And that's exactly what he wanted, in terms of,
right,
you have to leave the nest.
Yeah.
My job is, and if that thing I said, the teacher and the student together produce the learning, and if I, as the teacher, do my job right, the student will say, I did it myself.
Yes. Right.
Because they do the work, So
I'm glad you're bringing up teaching, because my question to you is, over all the years that you've been teaching now, do you think that there definitely could be some improvement on teaching standards here in the U.S.? And I'm talking all martial arts, not just JKD and all that. But do you think that... Okay, let me ask you another question before that one. Okay. I guess the first question is, have you seen a difference in teaching standards since the time that you started teaching to today?
I've seen all different changes. Some good, some not good.
Okay.
I've seen some people that have developed into amazing teachers.
Okay.
And I've seen some people that I wouldn't send my worst enemy to.
Wow. Okay.
Because of their what they do, how they do it, and things like that.
Right.
So I mean, I've seen the good and the bad of it. That's the nature of the beast, so to speak.
I see.
As it relates to teaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but with the standards, I know there's always room for improvement in everything that we do.
Right.
But in terms of just the martial arts world and industry, do you think it's possible that if we all got together, not literally got together, but if we got together, kind of on the same page and said, okay, everybody start thinking about the teaching standards and trying to find a way to raise them without sacrificing the business and all that. I mean, do you think that would be another way that more people could get involved? Because then they would start to see a difference in like the teaching quality, the learning quality, anything.
But But again, we go back to there's a lot of people who don't want to raise the standards because that's work on their part.
Okay.
They're quite happy to be where they are.
Okay.
They want to whatever. Bullshit people.
Sure.
There are a lot of people who don't want that.
Okay.
Or wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
Because it would also show them as they really are.
I see.
And
it's like that old saying, everybody eventually rises to their level of ignorance.
Yeah. So it shows them as they really are.
I see.
And it gets back to the thing, you look at yourself in the mirror, sometimes the view is not nice. So now you have two choices. One, you either change the view or you walk away from the mirror and never look at it again.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of people who wouldn't want to do that.
I see.
There are a lot of people that would. And this is why you cannot go, when it relates to Jeet Kune Do, I can only relate to that.
That's fine,
is you cannot go strictly by lineage, generation, first generation. Because I've met second and third generation teachers who are phenomenal.
Okay.
And I've met first generation teachers, again, that are useless.
Right.
So you cannot use that as the sole metric.
And and a lot of people do. They really try to use that as their sole metric. And now that you're saying this, I can see why that's probably a big mistake. Yeah. Because there are a lot of great teachers out there that are not being recognized or noticed. Right. Or, you see all these YouTube stars, social media stars and stuff, and they look good on camera or on a picture, but when you meet them in real life, that's a whole different story. Right. But then you see these other people out there and, they're just phenomenal teachers, and you're going, where are you at? You got to make yourself more known. But it's very hard for those people to do that because they're more concerned about developing themselves as a person and as a teacher rather than spending more time in front of a camera. Yeah,
and some of them don't want to do that. That's all. Like I said, there is no straightforward 100% answer on any of this stuff. Right. There are people who, will grow as teachers. There are people who will not grow as teachers. Right. Or whatever. Right. Just because they don't want to do the work. Right. I know, like in the medical profession, because I have students who are doctors, neurosurgeons, and they have that continuing education where they have to keep doing, learning whatever. Right. Right. In order to maintain certain things. Right. And so that's not necessarily learning another art. Even innovation. Innovation isn't about just techniques. Innovation can be related to training methods. Yeah. It can relate to all different sorts of things. All kinds of fields. Yeah. So, like I said, it's a wonderful view. Mm-hmm. Would that happen? Or it would be really good if everybody thought that way, but they don't. Right. So I have to accept that. Yeah.
Do you have any tips for people that are new to martial arts, and when they go into a school, how do they recognize good teaching and instruction? Yeah, if they're basically completely uninitiated to it, how do you help them discern or identify, wow, this guy's a really great teacher, or a girl or whatever?
Well, one, I don't think you can do it one time. Okay. Because you're going to get the sales pitch. Yeah, that's true. So if any teacher if you go into and you start talking to any instructor, and they refuse to talk to you about, the due diligence. Yeah. If I'm going to go, it's like, if I'm going to go to a doctor, I want to make damn sure that person's a doctor. Right. Right? Not somebody who's had a weekend seminar in surgery fundamentals. Whatever. So what is their background? What is their learning? If they refuse to give you that, then run for the door. Right. Because then it's bullshit. Likewise, if they try and smoke screen you, right? Oh, see this? I've been certified in this and this and this and this and this and this, and I've got this and I've got that. Yeah. That's great, but how does that relate to me? Right. It's always that whiffing. Mm-hmm. What's in it for me? Right. So doing the due diligence of being able to go in, and also have an idea, if you can, of what it is you're looking for in a martial art. I see. Maybe you're going in because you lack confidence and you think this will help you become more confident. Maybe you want to learn to defend yourself or a loved one should the need arise. What is what are your ideas? It doesn't just have to be one. Right. Why are you going in there to do it? Right. And then, like I said, and then what are they saying? Do they allow you to observe classes?
Right.
And then after that, do they allow you to work out in certain classes? And when you do, again, are they trying to sell you a program, or are they interested in you?
Right. Right. So that would be a really good way to help people with that discernibility or that differentiation. Is like if they walk into a school and it's an immediate sales pitch rather than a conversation about them.
Right.
I mean, that's very clear. You don't have to be a martial artist or anything to know the difference between that.
Right.
You know, because everybody's experienced a salesman.
Right.
You know, adult wise. I mean,
right.
Kids wouldn't know the difference, but adults, you know, we've all been sold something,
sure.
and we know how the sales pitch goes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works really well.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't. But obviously, we know when somebody's really interested in what we are.
Right.
And I would definitely agree that would be something that they should look out for. As if, you know, you walk into a school, are they asking you about you,
right.
or are they trying to go into all these amazing programs and all these things that their school can do for
right.
you? You know, and so I would definitely agree with that. And
it reminds me of that thing about, but enough of me. Let's talk about you.
Yeah.
What do you think of me?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what? Yeah. So
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I've done this. I've done this. I've done this. I've done this. Okay,
Right.
that's great.
Right.
You know. No. What about you?
Yeah.
What's your background? What are you looking for?
Yeah. I went to this martial arts school one time, and I saw the head instructor come up, and this lady had walked in, and she was interested in classes and stuff, and she didn't know martial arts names. And what I mean by names is names of people who are
right.
popular, and you know, with the exception of knowing who Bruce Lee is. This guy starts naming off all these amazing grandmasters and masters and stuff and gurus and all these people he's trained under. And her eyes are glossed over because she's like, I don't know who any of these people
right.
are. But he wasn't even thinking about that. He was thinking about, you know, I want to tell this woman all these people that I'm under. And all I could think to myself was, I wanted to walk up to him and stop the conversation and say, she doesn't care because she doesn't know.
Yeah.
She has no idea who you're talking about,
right.
and she has no idea how that even benefits her. And I feel like that's another thing that's kind of gotten a little out of hand as well with the martial arts world, which is a lot of titling. You know, people that are just using they're like, oh, I've done this and done that and trained under this person. Like, these guys don't know. Sure. I mean, it's amazing that you've done those things.
Yeah.
But they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's kind of one thing I kind of wish would change.
Yeah. We're back to the accreditation, the certification
right.
mode of people. Look,
yeah.
I've been certified in 36 different arts.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does that help me?
That's right.
You know. Yeah. So bringing it out that way.
Yeah.
But again, you know, you're going up against industry protocols.
Yes.
You know?
And it seems to be a lot of unspoken protocols, you know. It's not anything that's written in stone. They all just seem to do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can't help but think to yourself, well, man, you guys are really shooting yourself in the foot because it's not helping the public get involved, you know.
Well, you know, what you were saying when we were talking about people and asking people and having the chat first.
Right.
You know, what I need to know before we can go even further is what is your perception of martial art?
Yeah.
Because you and I may have totally different perceptions.
Yeah.
Martial art. So if I'm on this perception and you're on that one, then I'm not relating to you.
Yeah.
So what's your perception of it? You know, like I said, what would you like to see happen as a result of training?
Yeah.
I need to know that because I need to know if what I do will be a benefit to you.
Right.
And maybe it won't.
Right.
Maybe what we have to offer is not what you're looking for.
Right.
But that's not a martial art industry
standard
because it's no, everybody got to get them in. Maybe what I have to offer isn't what you're looking for.
Right. And I can see how a lot of these schools wouldn't want to go that route because they'd be turning people away.
Yeah.
Which means less volume, which means you know, I might not get my rent paid.
Yeah.
And so I can see how that's a problem. And you know, I have to admit that after traveling to all these schools, that I'm finally, it's like coming up for air talking to you, because I can tell that a lot of these other instructors and school owners, they want to say some of the things that you've said already, but I can see why if they do, man, it would actually hurt them.
Yeah.
And I know that you can see it. You can almost hear them trying to say it, but they know that if they say those words, like a lot of stuff that you said, they'd be shooting themselves in the foot because they'd be going against what they've already established. You know?
But then maybe they have 400 students and I've got 50. You know,
Right.
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I cannot change my core beliefs and philosophical values just for that.
Right.
Because the moment I do, I've denied what it's all about.
Right.
So I can't do that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And
that's just being honest with yourself.
Yeah, well, that's when we were talking about, when you're up to your ass in bills and thinking things are mounting up, and you just go, I could just do this.
Yeah.
And if I did this, I could be just, making it hand over foot.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I don't know,
Right.